huge honor today to be interviewing a legend in dentistry, Kim McGuire, who's been with Fortune Management for 15 years, and Fortune Management is huge. It's been around 26 years. It was started by Bernie Stoltz as the CEO out in San Jose, and you're in Denver, and I'm so glad I'm doing this because I'm interviewing you 2 days before the Super Bowl
I know.
for your Denver Broncos and the who they playing, the Carolina Panthers. I'm going on the record saying I love Peyton Manning, just love him to death. But man, there's no one in the solar system that could beat Cam Newton.
I know. Yeah, this podcast is going to be released after the Super Bowl, so I'm making no predictions. But I do know that people are having a lot of fun in Denver right now. There's a lot of orange. Like my kids are going to school in orange. All my clients are wearing their Peyton Manning jerseys, so it's a lot of fun. We'll see what happens.
And your company, Fortune Management, also has a sister company, HygieneMastery.com, with Shannon Richkowski.
Yes, and her amazing team of coaches.
So you've been consulting. Your dad is a dentist, so you were born into dentistry, and we see that every time I lecture in a dental school. I say, raise your hand if someone in your family is a dentist or a hygienist, right. And a third of the hands go up. So you still. But it's the same growing up in Kansas. I mean, all my friends that are my age from high school that are wheat farmers, well, their daddy was a wheat farmer, their grandfather, a dairy farmer. Right. So family business is really the backbone of the 7,300,000,000 monkeys around the world. It's true. I mean, if you're born in Ethiopia and your dad's a goat farmer, what are you going to be?
Exactly.
I mean, goats. I mean, so you grew up in dentistry. You've been consulting for 15 years. What problems does Fortune Management, what are you seeing on a daily basis for the last 15 years that's fixable? What stuff where they call up Kim and Kim goes in there and says, okay, here's your 5 problems, and we like to fix these 3. What do you like to fix? What are you seeing and what do you like to fix?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that we did have a couple of other co-founders. There's a Renee Schubert and a Paul Bass and a Gary McLeod who founded Fortune, along with Tony Robbins, which we can talk about, who you had on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, which was an amazing interview. But I would say actually
you know what would be cool? What? On these Skypes you can have, how many can we have at one time? 4. Well, you know what would be really cool? Get all the co-founders.
That would be awesome.
And then because 90% of the listeners to a podcast is audio only. Most of it's iTunes. Fewer is YouTube and Dental Town, but we can have all of 6, 7, 8 of them call in. That would be a great
awesome
podcast, and maybe Tony would even come back and get in on that.
He might. Well, and so the reason why I bring that up was partly because I want to acknowledge our amazing co-founders, but also that is really our special sauce. So we really wear kind of 3 different hats in Fortune as an executive coach. So we are coaches and consultants, we are coaches, and that is really taking the Tony Robbins technology that we're licensed to teach and helping to coach a client and their team. We also are practice management specialists where we help with systems and we help to implement running a solid business. And then we're also key business strategists where we're helping doctors with things like, are they going to bring in multi-specialty, or are they going to open up a new practice, or when do they bring on an associate? Really those key business questions that they have. But really what we see that is really our differentiator and how we can help people is we're helping them with their communication and their mindset and really who they're being with their team and their patients. Because, you can go to the best dental school and you can graduate top of your class and you can go to all the CE in the world, but if you don't have great business systems and if you don't have great communication skills, you're not going to be successful. And Howard, you know this better than anyone. So it's really that communication and really that personal growth and development that people take on that makes their practice just go leaps and bounds. So
well, I can tell your dad was a dentist and you've been doing this for 15 years and a company that's been doing it 26 years, because every dentist believes the exact opposite. They believe that if they go to an institute and buy a laser or a CAD cam or a shiny toy, it's going to come back and fix all their problems. And what's silly is that has nothing to do with anything. Those are toys.
Exactly. I
And
know.
I have found some of the most amazing offices in the world, and they don't have CAD CAM, they don't place lasers, they don't do surgeries, they don't do implants, they just do fillings and crowns, but they have an amazing
Amazing
team,
practice. Yeah.
amazing systems, and they make bank just doing family dentistry.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that was one of the things that I did learn from my father. I mean, he is an excellent clinician, but he has great communication skills. People loved who he is. And then he started working with Fortune, and that really helped him take his practice to a whole nother level where he and my mom could retire, and he and Bernie kept in touch. But I really do think that it's funny, we talk about having it be a family business. Even though I'm not a dentist myself, I am so honored to be working in this industry where I can affect other practices and affect other teams and then affect, of course, those patients. And that is really what it is. It's those communication skills. And it's really about who you're being first. It's not what you're doing, it's who you're being. And I know Tony talked about that on your podcast about really it's not just about the science of achieving things and achieving things all the time. It's about the art of fulfillment and being fulfilled and loving what you do and giving back. That's what really makes a difference in people's lives.
And just to be clear, you're not paying me to be on my show. You're talking to thousands of dentists. I'm volunteering. You're volunteering. No
Yeah.
money's changing hand. There's no
No.
one makes a dime off the podcast. But here's what I want you to do. You're talking to thousands of dentists. Almost all of them right now are commuting to work.
Yes.
And my problem, have been in here 28 years. Everybody who needs a consultant doesn't get one. And then everybody using consultants are trying to go from $1.5 million to $2 million. But I'm trying to get, the reason I'm doing this because I'm trying to get the people suffering doing 400, 500 and burned out and want to quit. Some of them start drinking or eating Vicodin or kill themselves. So I want you to paint a picture. I know how my homies think. They're thinking, well, how much does this cost? And I can't afford it. But they'll go afford a laser or a CBCT or whatever. So how much do you cost? And what do you fix? Try to paint a picture so that one of my homies driving to work, paint a picture to say, dude, you know this is your problem in your office. This is a
Right.
fixable problem. Go to my website, Fortune Management. It's fortunemgmt.com, or they can email Kim McGuire at Fortune Management. And I love you because I'm 100% Irish, and with the last name McGuire, you got to be a Mick. That's Kim, McGuire at Fortune Management. Paint the scenario, paint the picture so that they say, yeah, that's going in my office. What does it cost? How do they solve it? Because I just want my homies to be happy and healthy
Your homies,
and
yes.
make bank, pay back their student loans, and
Well,
then have the money. So if you want to learn Sinus List by Tatum, then have the money to fly to France and put your spouse on the Mediterranean while you go learn, Hilt Tatum, Sinus List, whatever. That's all fun. I love that, but that's not the basis that gets you there. So do that.
Well, first of all, we always say that, if we're going to give you a diagnosis without really doing looking at the mouth, we can't really do that. So we have to look at each practice individually. But anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month we charge, and we are very much into having a relationship with people, and it covers the gamut. It's really the most intense postgraduate program out there. So not only do we have in-house workshops, we typically have a local coach that works with the practice. So we're not flying people in. You have a local coach, and you typically go through what's called our training universities. So we have 5 two-day training universities that cover the whole entire gamut of running a dental practice. It's like getting a dental MBA, and I know you have your MBA, but it's like getting a dental MBA, and not just the systems and the marketing, but like we were talking about earlier, the communication skills that will take your practice to the next level. But let me tell you, Howard, we've got to pay for ourselves. We've got to make sure that the doctor is making at least that much more in order to pay for the program. We have a special, coaching calls. We have a monitoring system. We have access to a ton of other companies that will help people out, whether it's HR or creating an in-office benefits program. And we have all these different resources. But the biggest thing is, and Tony talks about this a lot, it's a modeling program. We're not reinventing the wheel here. There's a specific things that you can do to help grow your practice. And there's lots of different, and we look at like the 5 business engines. So it really starts out with your vision. And I know you talk about this, Howard, on your podcast and with different folks that you have on, but it's really about, doctor, how much money do you want to make? How hard do you want to work? Or what do you want your team to look like? What's your ideal patient look like? What does your facility look like? You've got to figure out what you want, because if you can't figure out what you want, we don't know where we're going, and you can't coach anybody to, unless you know where they're going. I mean, and it's easy to use these sports metaphors, especially the Super Bowl's in a couple of days, but it's like if a coach doesn't know where the team wants to go, we can't steer them. Now, Peyton Manning's coach isn't better than him, but he can show Peyton Manning where he might be off a little bit on his game. So a coach is somebody who helps you see maybe where you're steering off and not going where you want to go. But we really look at these 5 business engines. So one of them is your finance engine. We got to make sure that your finances are in line. And that's just not just taking a look at your P&L, which, by the way, a lot of people are putting their heads in the sand and don't want to look at their profit and loss statement. You do a beautiful job in your book, Howard, on showing people what a P&L should look like and a balance sheet and everything. I was reading that part of the book the other day. And also looking at your relationships with your insurance companies, your fee schedules, your financial arrangements and policies. Are all those areas in that finance engine, are they running like they should be? We also need to take a look at the systems engines. There's tons of systems in a practice, and that's oftentimes where there's a breakdown in communication with systems. Anything from scheduling to goal to collecting money to working the ARs. You've got lots and lots of different systems. The new patient experience. The new patient experience. People don't realize you've got to figure out exactly how you want people to come to your practice. Reactivation. I hear doctors talking about all the time, I need more new patients. I need more new patients, more patients. They got to just reactivate the ones they already have back into the hygiene program. Those people have already bought you. They already love you. They already know your brand. Bring them back in. Don't let them fall out of the hygiene program. Another area of the 5 business engines would be our marketing. And I would say marketing is one of the big mysteries that practices have, that doctors, they don't understand marketing. And I always joke around with my dad, because back in the day when he was practicing, you just put your name on the door and people just came. It was just how it was. Not anymore. We have to brand, the whole client and patient experience, that wow experience for whatever your demographic is that you're serving, you've got to be amazing. So it's internal marketing, external marketing, branding and identity. Of course, social media and digital media is a whole entire subject in and of itself. And then one thing I think that people forget about is case presentation and enrollment. Enrolling your patients in the treatment that they need is a part of marketing. And I think we get the patients in, but then sometimes we have trouble getting them to say yes to that treatment. And that's an art and a science all in and of itself. We also need to take a look at our clinical and technology engine. So do you want to be doing Invisalign or placing your own implants or using a laser or using the CEREC? What do you want to do? What's your vision in the clinical area? And then, of course, we have, last but not least, would be the people engine. And I think the people engine is really the most important, because it's about the culture of your practice and how you all are interacting with each other, job descriptions, systems, all that. I know that I've got your book right here. You talk a lot about that with the people. The people side of things it's about the people being you, the doctor, the team that's around you, and your patients, and really connecting with people on a whole nother level. So that's really what, we're looking at these 5 business engines. And the nice thing about this model, the 5 business engines, is that a typical practice is going to need to work on 2 or 3 at one time, not all of them. It's not like the sky is falling, right? So if we can work at 2 at a time or 3 at a time, whatever the case may be, we've got proven systems that work that can help you go to that next level.
Okay, summarize succinctly. What are the 5 again?
Okay.
One is
the finance engine.
Okay, one is finance.
Yep. Well, they're in no particular order, but one of them is the finance engine. The systems.
Okay.
Marketing and sales. I know sales is a bad word in dentistry, but that's what it is. Clinical and technology. And the people engine.
Okay.
And by the way, Howard, this is a model that's used, and this is from like a business book. This is not just dental specific. I don't care if you're a grocery store, a hair salon, Apple computer. You've got to make sure that you've got all engines.
Okay, so let's just number. So 1 is finance.
Sure.
2 was what?
Systems,
and that includes scheduling, collections, the new patient experience, all that stuff.
Yep.
3 would be
marketing
and sales, including the new patient experience would be under systems. So marketing, sales.
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's really under both. It's how do patients enter your practice? Are you getting referrals? How are you externally, internally marketing your practice? Uh-huh.
So now I want to talk about you've been doing this 16 years, you said?
15, 16 years.
15
Sure.
years.
Yeah.
In your 15 years, are the problems different today than they were 15 years ago on these 5 systems?
I think that the landscape is changing a little bit when it comes to marketing and when it comes to customer service. I mean, well, customer service has always been important, but I think it's even more important. I'd love to ask you how you see the dental landscape changing, but I think that there are, different forces that are happening, and one of them is the advances in technology is just going like gangbusters. So people are expecting that. I mean, we have our whole entire computer is on our phone now. So people are expecting the technology. We also see increase in corporate dentistry, and we're not poo-pooing corporate dentistry, but we just say, all right, doctor, if you own your own practice, let's figure out what corporate dentistry does well, and let's model success. Let's get the same profit that they get. Let's expand our hours and have maybe multi-specialty. There's lots of different things. So I think it's a little bit different. There's some different challenges that are going on right now. And then, of course, digital technology or digital communication is the third area that's really changing things. And that's because people, like our friend Fred Joyelle talks about, how, word of thumb. People can write a review online about you, and it's there forever. Whereas I used to tell my friend about Dr. Farran, and that would just be one-on-one person, but now I can tell the whole world using the internet. So I think things are changing in those areas, and the doctors need to be aware of that.
So what is there any type of average type of doctor calling you? I mean, when your phone rings and they say I need help, what is some typical scenarios?
Sure. Well, doctors come to us for a lot of different reasons. Some of them obviously do want to make more money. A lot of people want to make more money, but money isn't always the driving force, just like it's not always the first objection for your patients, by the way, for why they may or may not schedule their treatment. But they want to make more money, but oftentimes they want to have less stress. They want to have their team get along. I mean, we transform teams like no one else. I mean, we can create teamwork that's not just about surface teamwork, because it's really looking at what's driving us and how we interact with people. So I also think that the teamwork, that people come because they want to have less stress. They want to bring on an associate. They want to bring on another day of hygiene, and they don't know how to do that. Maybe they want to open up another practice. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different reasons why people come to us.
Would you say the number one reason that dentists call consultants is the stress from the team?
Yes.
And what percent would you say is the number one problem is the stress from the team, and what percentage of that would be versus say finance? My overhead's high. I'm not making money. I need more.
I think that's the second. I think it's team.
So team, what percent would the team be?
Well, it's well over 50% has challenges with the team. Well over 50%.
Yeah. So I always like to start there, and I keep going back there because that's what my number one complaint is. Like they want to learn how to bone graft and how to do a sinus lift. And then what keeps them up at night and what makes them want to puke is dealing with the staff and or the patient. They can fix the rock in the mouth. Yes. They can do a root canal. They want to take all their courses in how to fix rocks, and they want to spend all their money investing in high technology rock fixing equipment. Right. But the problem is the people, the team. So I want you to address because the goal here, I mean, neither of us are making a penny. The goal here is I believe the dentist is not either aware of the problem, because after the root canal, the first thing the dentist always does, he walks right back to his office and closes the door. I mean, I never see that, whereas on the Super Bowl, the coach will be walking up and down the field and his head will be right there on the goal line, and they're just completely obsessed. And I see the dentist with loops on working in a rubber dam, and then as soon as it's done, walks in his office and closes the door and is aloof to all this stuff. And one of the reasons he doesn't want to deal with it is because it's just so damn stressful. So can you address some red flags about what is the staff doing that's a red flag that it's dysfunctional that you can go in there and help? because I don't think he sees it or gets it or
and
understands
that's
it,
what I think.
or
I
he
think
would
you're
fix
right.
it if he knew what the hell was going on and he didn't want to fix it. Because I think consultants work is, I just want to sign a check and have you fix it. It's like when I go to a restaurant, I'll decide if I'm going to eat
Oh.
steak or pizza, then I'm going to give you a check to go make it. So what are the red flags? Well, paint the dysfunction of the staff that's causing the stress, and what that you can call and go fix.
Well, I know the doctors that are driving to work right now and listening to this are not going to want to hear it, but I do believe it starts at the top, and it starts with being them looking at themselves as a leader. If they're owning their own practice, or even if they're not, even if they're an associate working in any sort of situation, they are the doctor and they need to be a leader. And leadership can come in many different forms. Leadership does not need to be, I stand up and give a speech. Leadership is how you're being with people. Leadership is working on your emotional intelligence. And that's one of the things, I know you know about this because you do a lot of reading. A lot of these doctors have very high IQ, but it's that EQ, and we can't really change our IQ. We're kind of born with our IQ, but our EQ, our emotional intelligence, and that's how we're relating to ourselves and then how we're relating to other people, that we can increase. We can work on that. So that's really what our program is all about. It's really about how we're identifying our own feelings and dealing with them with other people. Because if you're just taking off your loops and going into your office to play solitaire, which by the way, I had a client one time do that and I basically fired him because I couldn't. It's like, you have to communicate with people. You've got to be with people. I think that it really starts with them. They've got to take a look and say, how am I being with not just what am I doing, but how am I being with my team that makes them want to go to the next level, that makes them want to work harder, that makes them want to give a whole nother level of service. What am I communicating to them about our vision? Am I giving them any incentives? Are we really, so that's kind of, I think it starts with them. They've got to take on leadership like no kidding.
Okay,
Just like
I'm gonna
take
throw
on the
some
whole crap.
curveballs at you, because I listen to these guys like I had breakfast this morning with 3 dentists. So I hear all the bitch. So I'm just gonna throw some of their bitch at you,
Okay.
because you're dealing with in dental office, there's dentists that are from the greatest generation, the older ones,
Yes. Sure.
and they think differently than the baby boomers, who think
Yes.
differently than the Generation Xers, who think different than the millennials. Okay, so here's what Grandpa Dennis is saying. Well, you don't understand, those millennials. They're just lazy. They're just born lazy, and
Right.
and so how the hell are you going to come in and fix up my lazy staff? Because they're all a bunch of young punk ass lazy millennials born on an
Right.
Xbox.
Right. Right. So I do hear that, and I think you've got to shift your what's going to motivate them. The studying that I've done on millennials is that they are much more motivated by helping the world. Some of them want to go and save the world. So if you can connect, what we're doing in this dental office is actually transforming people's lives through their mouth, transforming their health, and get them more connected with that. But I also think that, yeah, they've got to step up and learn. You've got to be a great role model to them and say, look, you've got to step up and work really hard. But they might not always know what that is. There's a little bit of a generation where they've been given a lot of trophies for just doing average, and we all know that that's happened. But I think you've got to come to the heart with them, the heart and soul, and get them to see that we're actually we're changing people's lives here. You are a part of something bigger than yourself. So I actually do think there's a searching for that. That's what I would say.
I agree 100%. Millennials seem to thrive on purpose. In
Yeah,
fact, I've seen
exactly.
millennials take
Yeah.
a job at the Indian reservation in Tuba City because it was more meaningful
Yes.
helping
Yes.
Navajos than it was going to Beverly Hills and doing cosmetic dentistry on rich old ladies who want to look 10 years younger.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Absolutely. And so connecting with that, so the greatest generation, even the baby boomers, they were just taught you work hard, you make money, and that was just why you did it. And so this new generation, they've just got to connect with them. But just like you talk about in your book, you got to be a lifelong learner. You got to be a reader. You got to say, well, what are they doing differently? Because every generation, though, looks at the other generation saying, I can't, look at these kids these days. Every generation does that. And then look what happens. The generation comes and it transforms the world. So I think we've got to just look at there's opportunity everywhere. It's also about their mindset. If they've got a mindset that these teammates are not going to amount to anything, then that's what they're going to get. But one of the biggest things I think as a leader is if you can believe in somebody more than they believe in themselves, they are going to rise to the occasion. No doubt about it. Sally, I know that you can do an amazing temporary. I believe in you. I want to work with you and help you do that. You know, Joe, I know you can be a great dentist. I'm going to mentor you. Do you want to be mentored? We've got to believe in people more than they believe in themselves. Because
I want to take that same generation gap and apply it to marketing. Because here's maybe my friends are getting too old since I'm 53. But they said when you talk about digital marketing and social media, this is what they're going to say. They're going to say, Howard, every time I do a full mouth implant, denture, partial on grandma, she would know what Yelp was, to Google Plus, to Facebook. Everybody who gives me money doesn't know what any of this shit is you're talking about. And everybody who's staring at their Facebook doesn't have dental decay and isn't coming in and giving me money. So all that social media, digital marketing is a bunch of horse crap.
Well, what I would say to that is that if you look at the world, there's about 7 billion people in the world, right? And there's 1 billion of them on Facebook. Actually, we've surpassed that. That statistic was from months or maybe even a year ago. So people are on Facebook, and well, we just want to talk about Facebook because social media now, there's so many different aspects of it. Some there are only younger kids on, but Facebook has got the 25 to 45-year-old women on it. And guess who's making most of the decisions for your family around healthcare? The women who are age 25 to 55. I mean, that's what it is. So they're on there. And even though you don't like Facebook, that is a community that's on there. And I mean, my friend Craig Spodak, he's got thousands and thousands of people that follow him. They're going gangbusters. And a lot of their patients say, I found you through Facebook. It's happening. So you can bury your head in the sand, or you can say, let me learn about this. I mean, I know people in their 60s and 70s that if you don't like their photo on Facebook, they get mad at you. You didn't like my They're on Facebook. They're on social media, and everyone is reading reviews. Amazon really was the one that changed the reviews. It used to be, that you had a book review just done by, the New York Times or whatever. And now everybody can write a review. That transformed things. Now when we do all of our Amazon shopping, like I know my family, I'm a busy mom, so my kids, most of their Christmas presents came from Amazon. Well, you bet I'm reading all the other parents, what they read. I don't know who they are, but somehow I'm trusting them. And that's what's happening. It's this trusting economy. That's why, bringing up the Super Bowl again, we're going to see a bunch of commercials on there. People are going to watch those commercials because they're watching it live, but people generally aren't watching live TV anymore. Madison Avenue is trying to figure out how to get our eyeballs because people aren't watching TV. They're not looking at advertisements. So reviews are the most important things. And it's huge for dentistry. It's huge. They've got to get reviews.
And since most of my fans are millennials, every time I get an email from a dentist on the show, they're always under 30. Man, I sure wish you'd write me a review for the Dental Town app or the iTunes show or my book on Amazon because it does help your SEO. So if you could do that for me, that would just be amazing. I want to go back. I want to go back when I want to say something. And I want you to address the back door because I grew up in restaurant industries where my dad owned restaurants, and if you ever saw people coming into a restaurant, they're just so damn happy. And you go to Disneyland, and all the kids are so happy to get in Disneyland. And then you switch to dentistry, and you see the unhappy side. They're coming in, they got a toothache, they're in pain. Yeah. I mean, dentistry's tough. But the thing that I think is a joke about everybody worried about corporate is if a hygienist works 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours. That means she could see 1,000 people for an hour twice a year.
Right.
And if you're getting 25 new patients, that means a month. That means every 3 years you'd add another full-time hygienist. But being a dentist for 30 years, I don't see any dentist on earth that kept all their patients and not accepting new patients. I mean, you see a dentist that have been out there 25 years, and they're still needing 25 new patients a month, which means they're losing 25 patients a month. And what I see with the corporate is the corporate's back door seems to be wider open than anybody on the planet. I mean, if they get 100 new patients a month, they lose 99 of them that month. So it's a revolving door. Dentistry is so hard, nobody's keeping customers for life. So I want you to talk about, you also have hygienemmastery.com, but when you said about new patients, I don't like people talking about new patients and marketing, all that stuff, because most of their patients are going out the back door. And you were saying, the best way to get more new patients, reactivate the old ones. So why do you think patients are leaving dental? So here's my question. Why do you think patients are leaving the dental office and not coming back? And why do you think the dentists listening to you right now who have had new patients for 10 years, why do they still need new patients after 10 years when they're a town of 5,000?
Right, right,
You're in a town of 5,000 and 10 years later you still need marketing on social media.
right.
So my question to you succinctly is, why does every dental office known to man lose patients every month, and how could we lose patients left so we don't need to Twitter and Facebook our way to success?
Because they're not continuously focusing on it. You have to continuously focus on delivering a different level of care. I know, Mrs. Jones, you hate coming to see the dentist, but we're going to give you an amazing experience anyways. Because if you have that mindset of like, we're going to make everybody's day today, then people are going to have a different experience. They're going to refer their friends and family. So it's partly about intend to keep those patients in there, but it's also about great systems. You have to pre-appoint people before they leave the dental practice. You just do. And people now are quote unquote busier than ever, although I'm not exactly sure if I always believe that. I think we've always been really busy. I think we just have more information coming at us, so we feel like we're busier. But you've got to pre-appoint people, but it's not just that. You've got to give them a reason to come back. And the reason that they want to come back is because they're totally connected with you. They're focused on you. You're connecting with them in such a way where you're asking them not just about their mouth, but their whole health. And yes, you're asking them about their personal life and building rapport. But when you can connect with someone so strongly that they're not going to get, not that they're not going to get that from corporate, but they're going to get that less from corporate. They can't get you anywhere else. They can only get you at your dental practice and the team and the handoffs. So when the team is getting along and the systems are being followed for keeping people into the practice and people are really caring about them, the patients will stay. If there's conflict within the team, if people aren't handing off correctly, if the systems are falling to the wayside, then there's not really a reason to stay. And they can always go to their next, their buddy can tell them about another dentist that they can go to. Always. That's always.
Okay, almost everybody that's ever contacted me, 99% from this show, they're all the dentists. But the dentist is back there staring at a tooth. And when the receptionist and the assistant, the hygienist aren't getting along, and a new patient walks into the waiting room, does she sense that?
I think they can sometimes.
Hell yeah.
I think that these ladies sometimes think that they're Hollywood actresses and and people can't tell, but I think people can tell. And so then the doctor has to stop the practice, have a team meeting, go to a training university. Like we have these training universities where they actually shut down their practice. They come with other practices there. There'll maybe be 50 to 100 people in the room, and we all mastermind. How can we be better when we go back in on Monday morning? And how are we going to not have it be business as usual? And what are we going to be thinking about and focusing on that transforms our lives, it transforms the lives of our team and our patients? We've got to be thinking about this all the time. And I think they just go back to business as usual, and it's just pick up the handpiece every day, pick up the handpiece. And they're not really saying, what are we going to do differently? How are we going to be different? What are we going to do today that is different than yesterday? I really believe that.
So Dentaltown has 50 forums, root canals, fillings, crowns. Under practice management, when you deal with on staff issues, and you scroll down the list, the number one reoccurring problem that the title is, I can't believe my hygienist wants a raise, and I'm barely paying my bills. So that's one of the most common problems. So what do my homies do when the hygienist says, "Oh, can I come back and see you over lunch? I have a question to ask." And then she comes in and says, "Dr. Kim McGuire, as you know, the planet has gone around the sun one more time, and I'm going to need another $1 because according to the Zodiac, every time the Earth goes around the sun, you give me another $1." And he's sitting there coughing up a blood clot because he's thinking, I have so much overhead.
Okay.
So what's wrong?
First of all, you do need to make sure that your staff overhead is in line, and I totally agree with what your book says that 25% is appropriate. For most dental practices, and there might be some differences around the country with some different socioeconomic areas, but generally we want a hygienist. Well, let me back up. Doctor, do you have daily goals for this hygienist? Are we scheduling to goal? Are we making sure that there's enough production in her schedule so that she can produce 3 times her salary? So if she makes 40, just using round numbers, if she makes $40 an hour, she needs to be producing at least $120 per hour period, end of story. Like, that is my absolute rule, because if she wants to be making more, then that's when these doctors say that hygiene is a lost leader, which of course I do not believe in at all. I think the hygiene is the lifeblood of the practice, but she needs to be taking a look at, obviously not doing inappropriate procedures, but is our perio program in line? Are we doing FMXs appropriately when the patient needs it? Are we making sure that are we doing fluoride? What other adjunct services could we be doing so that I can be producing $120 an hour, or whatever it is for your practice? It depends on your area and your fee schedule and all that. So I really think that it's about putting the onus on Miss Hygienist and saying, Susie, this is your operatory. This is your little business within my business. You need to be producing X amount. And if you produce over than that, I will consider giving you a raise. It needs to be about dollars and cents, because the doctor is looking at dollars and cents. He or she is saying, we're collecting X amount of dollars a month and all this money's going out and the rest is for me. They're looking at dollars and cents. So the hygienists I think they need to look at themselves as business people more than they do, perhaps. And that's what our Hygiene Mastery program does. And they've got to take a look at their own continuing education and where they can provide more value to their patients.
Okay, but here's the problem. I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in what you just said. My homies won't show their staff any of the numbers. They're not transparent. The staff, I go into staff and I say, 9 out of 10 offices, what do we have to do to break even today? They say, I don't even know what we collected a month. And they'll say, well, what is your overhead? And they go, he's never showed us a number.
Right.
And then I asked my homie, did you show your staff your numbers? And they go, I don't want them to see how much I make. And I go, well, you're back here coughing up blood clots into a toilet. So will you talk about dentists are typically, well, all social animals, all monkeys and apes are control freaks. They all want to be the 400-pound gorilla, and they don't want to be transparent. Governments don't want to be transparent. China, North Korea, most people, man-made institute, the Catholic Church doesn't want to be transparent. So how can you teach this dentist listening to you that if she was just, how open should she be with her numbers? Is there a problem if the staff sees that she just met that last year she made $150,000 a year?
Yeah, I don't think so. What it goes down to is people's belief systems around money and belief systems around it. So first of all, it's not appropriate for the team to know how much money the doctor spent or the doctor makes. Absolutely not. What is appropriate, though, is for them to understand what the variable costs are of the practice that they can actually affect. And it is appropriate for them to know, they can know what percentage of all the money coming in, the percentage that goes out to the team. And actually our bonus structure that we have, our BAM bonus system, is based on that.
BAM being bare ass minimum?
Bare ass minimum, that's right, or the basic amount of money that the practice needs to bring in. But it is based on that percentage. So we need to take a look at a healthy dental practice. Hey guys, I always say this. So I want to say a couple things. Doctors, this is what you need to tell your team. You guys are the most expensive investment that I make in my practice, but the most important, because I can't do it without you and you can't do it without me. So we're on this together, and I'm happy to pay you all, and we need to keep this in an appropriate percentage. The other thing I would say about goals and about dollar amount, here's the thing about human beings. People come to work for money, but that's not why they stay. They stay because they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And just like you say in your book, money is a yardstick that shows you how much value you've given to another person. And people like to be a part of something. So it's like if you have a goal to do $1 million and you chunk it down by the month and then by the day what it's going to take, people get excited about that. Awesome, we hit the goal today. Tomorrow the next day we didn't hit it, but the next day we blew it out of the water. People can get excited about that, and that doesn't mean that they know how much money you make. But by the way, doctor, you've got a lot of bills. You went to dental school and undergrad. You probably are paying those off, and you put yourself out there. You have a business. You should be paid handsomely for that. I have no problem with that. They don't need to know the dollar amounts, but what they do need to know is, I want the hygienist to be producing $1,000 a day. We want the doctor to be producing $4,000 or $5,000 a day, whatever it is, so that they have something to go for. Every year in December and January, all across the country, all the Fortune practices get into one ballroom. And like in Denver here or all of Colorado, they drove from all around. It came into one ballroom in the Bay Area, New York, every place. and they do annual planning where they crunch their numbers. They begin with the end in mind. I always have a coaching call with my doctor. Doctor, how much money do you want to make this year? We have to begin with the end in mind. You want to make $200,000, $300,000, whatever it is? Great. Well, what's your profitability? Well, we have to take that first, and then we have to figure out how much you need to produce and collect in order for you to take that home. Then we go to the practice and we say, okay, guys, this is how many days we're going to work. This is how much we want to make. So we chunk it down. And we really are open about that because that's the only way to measure whether you've done better or not. So I think that they need to maybe take a look at their belief systems around sharing numbers with their team and know that it doesn't mean that they know how much money you make. It's just about, it's about them. If you empower them to understand the numbers, they may start thinking more like business people. And then they're going to think, well, I'm a business person and I'm working for this practice. And if you put a bonus structure that is about a profit sharing, then they're saying, well, gosh, I want the practice to make more money, so I'm going to work harder, or I'm going to do better at enrolling, or I'm going to give Mrs. Jones an amazing experience, and then it flows. That's how it works. It's not, there's no magic to it, so.
Okay, but you and I'm 10 years older than you, but what percent of dental offices have a budget for at the beginning of the year? What percent would you say?
Well, the ones that work with us do.
I know, but what percent of the industry does?
Very few.
I mean,
in fact,
quantify it. Give a number.
I would say, I'm going to say 70%.
70% do not or do?
Do not.
Yeah, so basically 2/3 do not. 70% do not. And so if you're listening to this, I mean, do you want to be in the 30%? I mean, you just can't finish the year strong by random chaos, luck, accident. You got to have a plan.
Yes.
But they'll fly all the way to Key Biscayne to a 5-day occlusion.
Right.
Occlusion.
Right.
And then they'll fly. I mean, they'll fly all over the country to learn about a sleep disorder. And it's like, okay, you're going to learn sleep medicine, and you don't even have a budget for 2016.
Right.
And then I keep telling them if they had all the budgets, bonuses, and they had the business, then they'd have the money to go play monkey dentistry anywhere on earth.
Absolutely. And so here's you brought up a great one, sleep medicine. I have a couple clients that are really getting into sleep medicine. It's not just about the doctor we're learning about occlusion and learning about the airways and maybe getting a cone beam. It's about having every single team member understand how to talk to the patients about their lifestyle and their sleeping and their all the symptoms that they're having so that we can enroll those patients in that treatment, because it can't just be all about the doctor. So again, this goes back to leadership and the doctor saying, okay, guys, in 2016, I really want to do a lot more sleep apnea because I'm really passionate about that and I'm really passionate about helping people. These are the things I need you to know. These are the things I need you to understand. So shut down the office, do a training program, and empower your team, because that is going to help you implement what you've learned.
Well, the Caesars called it circus, where they would give the people what they wanted. So let's give our townies some circus, because they only want to know about clinical.
Right.
Then that was one of your 5 things. Clinical technology, implant sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any, go over the hot areas, whether it be CAD, CAM, lasers, implants, sleep medicine, short-term ortho. So what do you see out there in the real-to-real world where some of this stuff is making an impact?
Well, I've probably drank the Serona Kool-Aid, but I definitely think digital technology and CAD-CAM technology, the future is here. It's already happening. The CEREC technology, the new releases of the technology is absolutely amazing. How it can integrate also with the Galileos, the cone beam technology, and patients are going to be expecting. It's like our friend Fred says, if you want to do 2 visits or do you want to do 1 visit? I mean, that's what people are going to want in the future. And by the way, that's what the corporate entities are buying CERECs by the millions. In fact, at CEREC 30 last September, they gave Pacific Dental Services an award for the 1 millionth restoration, CEREC restoration. So it's here to stay. So you've got to make sure that you're on top of that technology. For sure, I would say that is the biggest thing, digital technology. And then, of course, Invisalign or other short-term ortho is huge, especially with adults and people. That's becoming a household name, Invisalign. So, but here's what I always tell a general dentist, which I don't know if most of your listeners are general dentists or even specialists. This is good for specialists to hear too. even though a general dentist can do all of these things, I want them to do what they're passionate about. If you're passionate about placing implants, go learn it and do it. But if you're not passionate about it, then refer it out. It's just like you talk about time. You only have a certain amount of time. So figure out what you're passionate about and then focus on that, and you can outsource the rest. Or bring in an associate or a partner who has those skills that complement you. So I think that's really important as well.
Well, in answer to your question, do specialists in the show, I own Dental Town and Ortho Town. Ortho Town magazine goes to 11,000 orthodontists each month, and about 5,000 of them are on their website. They're big fans of the show, so you're talking to a lot of orthodontists. I agree. Going back to the staff, the money is usually third or fourth reason why they're working there. Do they like the people they're with? Do they feel good about what they're doing? Do they like their team? Same thing with dentistry. I don't want to rain on their parade. I mean, if your passion is placing implants or sleep medicine or CAD/CAM, go do it. But I just firmly believe that being a millionaire has nothing to do with whether you're an endodontist, a periodontist, a pedodontist, a prosthodontist. Business is business. I don't care if you're selling dentistry or donuts.
Absolutely.
All that. You mentioned the staff bonus system. Can you go over your staff bonus system?
Sure.
Or is that a secret trademark?
Oh, no, it's not a secret. No, absolutely. We've come from total abundance. I'm happy to share it with you. So I'm just going to use round numbers. Let's say that we want to keep our staff salaries at 25% of what we collect every month, and our staff salaries are at $25,000. Well, then that would mean, of course, that we need to collect $100,000 to keep that in that percentage in line. We do use a 3-month rolling average where we are looking at 3 months in a row. It does get paid out every month, or it gets calculated every month, but we're using the last 3 months to look at the numbers, and that really just takes away any ups and downs. If you got a really low month, you don't want to be. Some doctors are like, well, I don't want to give out a bonus at a really low month, but then you maybe have a really high month, so it just really evens everything out. So you're looking at, in this example, if it's 25%. If we want to keep it at 25% and it's $25,000 going out to the team, anything over that $100,000 on the 3-month rolling average, 20% of the overage goes into a bonus pool. So basically the doctor's saying, look, after $100,000, I have paid all my bills. I've gotten paid what I want to get paid. You guys have been paid what you want to be paid. Anything over that $100,000 is really a lot of gravy. There's going to be a couple percentages in there for some supplies and a little bit here and there, and lab costs depending on how you do your dentistry. But most of it then can go back to the staff. And then that creates a bonus pool, and that bonus pool might be, say it's $2,000. If everybody works the same amount of days, you can divide it up, but if they work different amounts of days, you can prorate it. The reason why we do it, the whole team gets to share, is because just because a hygienist sees the patients, the administrative team needs to schedule them. So we all need to work together. It's an even bonus. And boy, some of our practices are bonusing a tremendous amount, and because they're seeing that they can make more money that way than asking for a dollar raise. Plus, it's so exciting if you have $1,000 to share with the rest of your team, and the doctor gets excited because, let's say in this example, the average over the last 3 months was $110,000. The doctor's going to give $2,000 to the team, and he or she's making about $8,000 more. So you should be excited about that.
Hey, I'm going to throw another curveball at you.
Curveball, throw it.
So when I look at firemen, they show up to 100% of all the fires in Phoenix and put them all out. Yes. Policemen aren't very good. When I was in high school, they only solved and convicted and imprisoned about 10% of people who murder someone. And now they put a bunch of money and all that. Now it's only about 30%. You still got a 2/3 chance. They might know who killed you, but they're not going to take it to jury. They don't have enough evidence. But when I look at my homies, we're in between police and firemen, and the fact that when Dentists in America diagnose 100 cavities, only 38 out of 100 get drilled, filled, and billed. So policemen are about 30% on murders. We're about 38% on cavities, and firemen get all the fires. You think you're a good dentist. I don't think you're a good dentist if 2 out of 3 times you diagnose a cavity, it walks out the door. And you think you're a good dentist because you use a rubber dam and this and that and this and that. And I'm looking at 2 out of 3 infections walking right out the door. And then a dentist could double his practice without any new patients. If he went from getting 38% of them drilled, filled, and billed to 76%. So my specific question is, do you agree that if you raised your treatment plan case acceptance, that's being a better doctor, that make your mama proud? Because I mean, isn't that our job? Isn't our job to fight infections in the mouth?
Yeah, to
So
take the very best
what
care of
tips would you give to increase treatment plan acceptance? Because
people.
I'll go into a town with two dentists in the same medical dental building. They got the same number of charts. And
Yep.
one dentist does twice the revenue as the other
Yep.
one, and it all comes down to treatment plan acceptance and paying and getting treatment. So how can my homies get more than 38 out of 100 diagnosed cavities drilled, filled, and billed?
All right. Well, your homies need to take a look at why do people buy things. First of all, nobody likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. Like people like to buy things, right? But they don't like to get sold. That feels yucky, right? So we need to be thinking about why do people want to buy things? People buy for emotional reasons and they back it up with logic. People buy for emotional reasons and they back it up with logic. It's like, why do people spend $80,000 on a car when they could spend $25,000 on a similar type of car or another car that takes them from point A to point B? Well, there's all these emotional reasons. I want to look good. I want to look sexy. I want people to think I'm successful. There's all these emotional reasons, but then they'll back it up with logic. Well, but it's very safe. And I'm going to get my kids to the mountain skiing very safely, right? So it's the same thing in dentistry. It's extremely logical, right? You find a tooth that needs a cavity, you diagnose the cavity, or, it has decay and you diagnose the cavity. But we go too clinical with our patients and we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. We think we're educating them and they have no connection. It's not connecting with them because you're not really connecting with what is going to motivate them to buy your dental treatment. And so I think that this goes back to the beginning of our conversation. We've got to be more in touch with our own feelings and what's going on with the patient over there and talk to them about what's most important to them in their health. What's most important to them in their relationship with our practice? What is really bothering them? What's not just what their chief complaint is, but really what is, because it might be their health. It might be they want to look good. They want to have a beautiful smile. It might be they want to chew their steak till they're 90. It might be time. It might be like, hey, I don't have a whole lot of time. I need you to do like a whole quadrant all at once. Of course, they won't say quadrant. They'll say a whole side. But, you got to figure out what makes this person tick. And it also goes back to our conversation about social media. People think that everybody thinks like themselves. They don't. They think like they do. So you got to get out of your world and get into the patient's world and try and figure out what's going to motivate them to say yes to your treatment and then talk to them in those terms. Figure out what they want and then tell them how your treatment is going to get them what they want. Because your competition are flights to Hawaii and flat screen televisions and all the stuff that we've been talking about. So
Okay, but when I go into an office, the assistants and hygienists tell me that if she starts pulls out the intro camera and starts explaining, the assistant or the hygienist, that they get in trouble because doctor says that they're not doctors and they don't know what they're talking about and they're diagnosing and blah, blah, blah. And then when I go into the offices that have really high treatment plan acceptance rates, everybody has the freedom to educate.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the first example that you said is just people need to take a look again at their belief systems. That is a limiting belief that the other team members cannot enroll these patients. In fact, they might believe the hygienist or the assistants more than they believe you, doctor, unfortunately. So it is in fact, when you get Shannon on, she'll probably talk about this, but it is a must for me that in the hygiene room that there's an intraoral photo that is taken and up on the screen so when doctor comes in, they can talk about it. Now, that might not be what they diagnose, but it's called co-discovery because co-diagnosis, we're not supposed to say that. So it's co-discovery. Hygienist is discovering. Dr. Smith, Kim and I have been talking, and we really are concerned about tooth number 29, and so you can have the picture up there. So they're visually seeing what's wrong, and then there's a talk over because you're actually talking about without me, the patient, over me, and it's unbelievably impactful. You've got to empower your team to be able to do this. No, they're not going to diagnose. They're not the doctor. You're the doctor. However, they can help speed up the process of enrolling your patients by teeing it up for you, and then you can say, yep, I can see that's true, or maybe we need to just take a look at that next time you come in for your next hygiene appointment, whatever it might be. Although I don't like to see a lot of watches because I think we get ourselves in trouble there.
Well, you know what? They say it's illegal for a hygienist to diagnose. I'm just wondering, in your career, Kim, how many hygienists have you met in prison that went to jail for diagnosing an X-ray?
Right.
I mean,
Zero.
I know.
Yeah.
Crazy. I want to keep on this diagnosis treatment plan because I really think the best firemen are the ones that put out all the fires. The best policemen are the ones that catch all the bad guys. I just, if I could have one gift for dentistry, it'd be just get out of the infection. I don't care what you fill it with. I don't care if it's amalgam, IRM, Di-Cal. Just get out all the decay. Do you see any higher success rates with any of these technologies like KC or some of these apps like DDSGP, or do you just like the intraoral camera or digital X-rays? What are there? I guess my question is: are there any aids that you think help close treatment plans, or do you just think it's just the salesperson?
I do like DDSGP. I've seen a couple of demos with them. I think Casey is great. I don't think people use it. They have it in there. They have it on their computer. They're not using it. I think the intraoral camera of their actual mouth is the best, coupled with sitting there and talking with the patient and actually talking to them about what their long-term goals are and what they really want out of their dental treatment, what they really want for their health. So I think it's partly, there are some great tools, but you've got to have a great person utilizing those tools, utilizing them and utilizing them to the best of their ability. And then again, going back to the drawing board and saying, taking a team meeting and saying, all right, so we've been using, let's just use DDSGP or Casey, or I know that there's some other education softwares out there. What's going great? What could we improve on? How you did really great when you explained X, Y, and Z, but on Mrs. Smith over here, you didn't do a great job. We've got to have open and honest communication with our teams in order to be able to figure out what are we doing great and what do we need to work on, because that's what's really going to help you go to the next level. So that's whole self-awareness. The other thing that people need to do, I love how you throw out the 38%, and I love that statistic, but do people really know what their case acceptance statistics are? I don't really think they do. I think they
know
tracking.
They don't have any idea what it is.
No, they don't. They have to track it. Yeah.
But I have to say one thing, being an old timer, is that the first 10, 15 years, well, from 87 to 2000, when I had when I had X-rays and little 1-inch films on a view box or whatever, and that was my world from 87 to 2000. And then when I switched to digital X-rays, which only half of the dentists in America have, and I could pull up that X-ray. Now it's 18 inches by 12 inches on a screen. That I think the intraoral camera I had at 87. I mean, I bought that back when it was $38,000. The Omni camera. It was the size of a refrigerator.
Right.
You could have put a keg of beer in that damn thing. It was a monster. And everybody said I'm not paying $30,000, but I already saw that it added $30,000 and more dentistry probably in the first 40, 50 days.
Sure.
But I think I think the dentists who are on film X-rays, I think digital X-rays are as powerful as the intraoral camera.
I would agree with that, absolutely. And of course, all of the technology of these screens that we have. The other thing that we teach, and we talked a lot about people's modalities, how we communicate in different ways. So, and Tony Robbins goes into this a lot, but we communicate. We communicate with all three areas, but some people are stronger, like you might be right-handed or left-handed. But if I'm right-handed, but if somebody cut off my right hand, I'd be able to write with my left hand if I had to. So some people are more visual and they talk with their hands and they emote more. Some people are more auditory and they can hear things better. And some people are more kinesthetic and they have to feel that something's right, and they're a little bit more emotionally connected. So most people, though, when they're deciding on their dental treatment, are visual people. So you've got to put it up there. So I think it's both connecting with them emotionally and also figuring out where their modality is. And we have a whole 2-day seminar that we teach all this stuff, but figuring out and then speaking to them in their language. see Mrs. Jones, where you've got this crack in your tooth, like talking to them that way. Absolutely.
You know what your best marketing would be? I mean, you don't need me, you don't need marketing. I mean, you guys have been doing this forever, but we put up 350 online C-course on Dental Town, and they've
Yeah.
been viewed over 500,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys like if you put up an online C-course and went over your five your key parts to your 5 business engines or
Sure.
qualities of a successful leader or 6 areas of life mastery, I think a lot of people would get turned on to you guys, and I think you would reach a whole different level of people. Because
Well, I'm gonna take that on, Howard. I'm gonna make it happen.
and put your
Absolutely.
podcast on that. But we're out
I
of
will.
time.
Yep.
But I'm gonna ask you one overtime bonus question that I am not allowed to ask because I'm a boy, and if I ask it, I'm considered a sexist pig. But there are conventions and meetings, even put on in my own backyard, Arizona State Dental Association. Here's the nonprofit Arizona State Dental Association putting on seminars of women's issues in dentistry. So my last question, and I'm not even going to comment or whatever, but you're a woman and you've been in this thing forever. Are there any, when you're out there consulting, are there any women's issue that don't apply to short, fat, bald men like me? Do women have any special issues in dentistry?
I do see, for the female clients that I work with, I do sometimes see a challenge with them crossing the friend versus I'm your boss line.
Exactly. And it's
They,
not just women. The next generation men don't do it.
yes,
The baby
yes,
boomers do it, but the millennial boys do that
yep,
too.
yep.
So
There
you're
are,
saying millennial male dentists are part girl?
that's not what I'm saying, Howard.
Can
No,
I
what I'm
quote you
saying,
on that?
I think they want to connect, though. They want to have a good time. They want it to be like just one of the guys or just one of the girls. And there's a difference here. Like I have one female dentist who also is a millennial that I'm thinking about. And the way that sometimes her team speaks to her, I think to myself, Dr. So-and-so, the 50-year-old man, would never be spoken to that way. I don't know what it is. It's just something. So we're working on her leadership skills. And she's a beautiful leader. She's wonderful, but really setting those boundaries. And I think there is a unique challenge that they have there. But I think women dentists are fabulous. I love them.
I love them too. Who could not? But be a little more specific. What behaviors do not just women dentists, but millennials, boy
Uh-huh.
dentists too? What behaviors is crossing the line from friend to boss? Because if I go out and get drunk with you till 3 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
how can I write you up for being 5 minutes late the next day? You know what I mean? So what
Sure.
is there any
There's a little bit
specific
of that.
behaviors where you say this is crossed the line? You're no longer a boss, a leader that can fire you, and
Hmm.
now you're too buddy close friend, and now they're not going to respect you.
Well, there could be the going out and drinking, and everybody has different, boundaries there. But I think it's really about how much they share with them. It's there's not like it's not black and white. It's pretty gray. I'm thinking of another client, and she shares a lot about her life, so she becomes just one of the girls. And then when they don't like something, they're like, well, we don't like the way you're doing that. Well, you said this week, and now you're saying this the other week. And what is it? With this attitude in a team meeting, and I'm going, time out, guys. It's inappropriate to say that. There needs to be one thing I love about dentistry is that it's not corporate and it's fun and it's entrepreneurial and we're changing people's lives. But I do think a level of professionalism could be increased. I think that there could be an increase in professionalism on both the doctors and the employees side, the teams. I think that because we're out here saving lives and we're out here delivering beautiful smiles, and it's a huge industry, and I think that there could be a little bit of an increase there. So
My
yeah.
next door neighbor, out on the front lawn, friend of a friend, said, "Howard, have you heard of this new dentist, blah blah blah, the street?" And I said, "Yeah." And through a friend of a friend, he saw, and he showed me his Facebook picture. And this guy, I'm 53, he's probably 68. He said,
Uh-huh.
"I feel sorry for the poor bastard that goes to that guy as a dentist." Because he was at a party and he's posting this on his Facebook
Right.
page, and the grandpa next door just can't associate with someone doing a root canal or a bypass or an implant
Yeah.
half naked at a swimming pool party.
Right.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
But hey, seriously, I'm your biggest fan. I think we set a world record. We're both 100% Irish, and
I
two Irishmen were with each other for an hour, and there was no beer exchange.
I know.
Is this a record? But hey, seriously, thanks for all that you do. I'm your biggest fan. I mean, God, for you guys to have Tony Robbins for the length of time. Thank you for all that you've done for dentistry, and thank you so much for giving me an hour of your life today.
Absolutely. And Howard, right back at you. Namaste. Thank you for being who you are in Dental Town and all of you, what you've created. And maybe I'll see you in Arizona in a couple of weeks at the meeting.
Hey, whenever you're down, call me up.
We're gonna hang out.